Hey Agaho guys, today we're going to be starting off Liliana's campaign, and this is going to be a campaign where we use primarily, actually in fact entirely, black cards. Look at Liliana as a young girl. She's all got like priestess attire and whatnot. Looks pretty good, if I must say. Just good. I'm always a sucker for the, women of the cloth with the Healy magics and stuff, like Mint from Tales of Fantasia, that sort of thing, so... I rather like little Liliana, but that's not how she's going to be for very long. So anyway, going to start out, and as you can see I've been through the entire campaign, but we're going to start and play through this all the way through. Now after you beat each stage of the campaign, your deck gets upgraded, which you start out with actually a less than 60 card deck, which actually means that you just straight up get more cards added in. So, let's go ahead and get the first one underway. And this is actually the art from the Tainted Remedy card that I remarked on at the end of the last video. So, there's some stuff going on. Liliana's brother Josu, or Yosu, however you pronounce that, has returned from the battlefield mortally wounded. Desperate to save him, you are told of a healing potion by the mysterious Raven Man. Now, if a Raven Man, which I presume is going to be some dude who looks like a bird, shows up and says, there's a healing potion, this will totally work, you might be a little bit suspicious, but Liliana is so desperate that she's going to administer this potion to her brother, but of course it's a trick, because that's a thing that ravens tend to do in stories and whatnot. So instead of curing him, the potion transforms him into an undead horror intent on killing his sister, so that's not very nice. Now there we go, look at little Liliana. Well, you're not going to be looking at her for too long, because what we have here is a very special playmat that, as far as I know, only I get to use. It's just it's a black playmat. It's actually very appropriate for this deck since we're going to be using all black cards. So yeah, I like it though. All the necessary implements are here. The cards stand out really well, so it's pretty good. All right, so we got a 2-land hand, which is a little bit below what you would want to have, but should be alright, because in campaign mode I find that you tend to draw quite a bit of land. So let's go through. I'm actually going to go through, since this is also going to kind of serve as our tutorial for people. It's not going to be like a proper tutorial, but I'll go through slow enough such that you can understand what's going on. If you already know how to play the game, then you may not get too much out of these videos. You'll probably just have to wait for an actual competitive game, which will be coming up whenever the game launches fully. Or whenever we get some good stuff going on that I can record with Xerxes Blonde Gubs. So we have your basic swamps, which if you're familiar with Pokemon, these are basically the same thing as your energy cards. As you can see, it even says basic land, much like, basic energy. So these are the things that you got to put in play once a turn in order to do good stuff. In fact, anything that you want to play, you're going to need some sort of land, some sort of way to provide mana to do so. This game conveniently organizes stuff from least expensive to most expensive in your hand. So here's this Shambling Goblin. So this is not just any goblin, this is a zombie goblin. And when he dies, you get to pick something else on the board that an opponent controls, and they get -1/-1 until the end of the turn. The icon up here, the little skull, that means it needs a black mana to cast. Only needs one though, so this is about as cheap as you can get a creature to be. And having a 1-drop in your opening hand is pretty good, because that's something you can go ahead and get out there on the first turn. We also have a Shambling Ghoul to go along with the Shambling Goblin, and he enters the battlefield tapped, which is kind of a bummer, but not as big a worry as it could be. As a result, he's a little bit more powerful than, this guy. He costs 1 mana, he's a 1/1. 1 is the power, 2 is the tough, or 1 is the power, 1 is also the toughness. And this guy's got 2 power, 3 toughness. I'll explain what those are when we actually get to combat. And we have a nice 3-drop here, Nantuko Husk, who can make himself bigger by sacrificing other creatures, and that's kind of one of the things that black likes to do. As you can see, when this thing dies, something else gets weakened, or potentially just outright dead. And sacrificing dies is a keyword that just means goes from the battlefield to the graveyard. So that's one of the ways you can do that, is by being sacrificed with this guy's ability, which I'm sure we're going to get to use. And then we've got a 4-drop here. Needs 1 black mana and then 3 mana of any color. Since this is a monocolor black deck, it's going to be all black mana. But if you're playing a multicolor deck, then this is going to be you know, you ideally want to have things that only cost one specific color of mana, and then, you know, otherwise color whatever. Typically, if something is more, like if this was, say, 2 black mana and then 2 colorless mana, it's still a total of 4, but it's a little bit more restrictive. So everything in this opening hand only costs 1 mana. Anyway, we are going to keep this hand, and we'll see what we can do. So they are going first. This is, we are facing off against Josu the Cursed. So got to take down brother. I'm not entirely sure if it's big brother or little brother, but look at Liliana. She looks so nice right there. She's not going to look that way for long. But anyway, of course we draw a land, because, you know, that's what I figured we would draw. And we're going to put a goblin into play. Now, when a creature first comes into play, you can see there's these swirly things going around. And whenever you zoom in on a card, you can also see all these very, very handy things. This was something that I wish was there in the older versions, and now it's there. So you can see things like Summoning Sickness. If you don't know what is the swirly thing, well, you can just listen to me tell you right now, or you can just check on it right here. It can't attack or use any abilities that make you turn it sideways, which is called tapping, because you haven't had it in play since the start of your turn. Very similar to Pokemon and Evolving, how you have to have controlled the Pokemon. You have to have had a Pokemon in play since the start of your turn in order to evolve it. So it's kind of a similar thing here, except in this case it has to have been in play a turn in order to attack. Again, we draw a land, which is why I kept the 2-land hand. And here we got this imp thing, which is has flying and lifelink. So flying means that it gets to fly over stuff that's on the ground, and, you know, if you're on the ground, you're like, hey, don't attack me. But too bad, because they're flying over you, and they're just gonna get right at your life total. If you have someone else who has flying, then they can get in their way. And there's another ability called Reach, which means it gets to block things that have flying. You know, it's like they can reach up there and dunk the flying guy to the ground. So this other ability called Lifelink, by the way, there's these nice little skill quests. I'm not going to go into this one right now, but what this does, if you click this, it takes you into this pre-made scenario where you have to somehow utilize the ability in order to win the game. And you also get coins for doing that, so I would highly recommend doing so. I'm pretty sure I've already done all of them myself, so I'm not going to do it again. But lifelink means you get to kind of like blood sword it up, and however much damage this creature deals, you also get to suck up that much HP. So it's not something that's going to win you the game, but it'll help you maybe not lose the game quicker than it should. So we're going to put this guy into play, and he's going to come into play tapped, and that's going to be relevant, well, later on. So here's this guy. I'm actually going to go ahead and attack with this guy. You can use your monsters for attack or defense, but generally you can only use them for one or the other. Whenever you attack with something like I did right there, you just push it up to the middle and say, hey, I'm attacking with this. Hang on, pause the timer. Pause the timer. There we go. As opposed to other card games where you say, okay, this guy is going to attack this guy. That's not how it works in Magic. In Magic, you just say, this guy's attacking. The only time you would make a choice when you're attacking is if the opponent also has a Planeswalker in play, but that's, I don't think, is going to be relevant at any point during the campaign, so I won't get into that right now. Anyway, so basically you just declare what you want to attack with, and if the opponent wants to block, then they get to decide what blocks what. So, anyway, this thing's probably going to swing in because I don't have anything. Well, first off, I don't have anything that's standing upright, which would be untapped, and the game wants to remind me what lifelink is. So whenever a creature attacks, it goes sideways. Now it's going to happen right here. This is the end of my opponent's turn, and when my turn starts up here, we're going to draw a card, and also everything's going to, there you go, it's going to stand back up, go back to the untapped state, which is upright. Now, the only time something can actually block is when it's upright. So now that this thing is tapped, it's not going to be able to block even if he wanted to. So we're going to put another land in play because you want to do that every turn. And I'm actually going to hold off playing a creature. Generally, unless a creature affects combat in some way, you want to hold off and play it in your second main phase after combat. So this guy, if you notice, came into play tapped. Usually when you play a creature, they can immediately defend for you, but they can't immediately attack for you unless they have a certain ability called haste that just straight up says they get to do that. So we're going to attack with everything because he can't block any of it, and it's going to be 3 points to his face. So cool. He's got that guy with lifelink, so he's going to be gaining HP back. So Now we're going to put this guy into play, Nantuko Husk. Or I always mix up the vowels. Nantuko Husk. I think there's some other cards that are Nantuko as well, but none of them are actually in this set. So he's going to be pretty interesting coming up momentarily. In fact, I think on this next turn we're going to be able to use his ability to do something cool. So he actually opts not to attack, and he is playing a, what is this, highway robber, what enters the battlefield. Okay, so basically gets to steal 2 life from me, which is fine, I guess. It's going to put him back in the lead, but life total is, in the end you need to reduce your opponent to 0 to win the game, but it's not always necessarily an indicator of who is really and truly ahead. So let's see what we gotta have here. Okay, so we're gonna put this guy out here, Vengeful Dead. We could put out one kind of thing is if you once you mouse click down on a thing, nope, too bad, you're playing it. As far as I can tell, it's there so you can kind of like drag things out, but as far as I can tell, that doesn't quite work so well. So here's this highway robber guy, and we are actually, I believe, going to attack with everybody, and then we're going to see what happens for him. So what we're actually going to do here is, as you can see, the blue bar went across there. That means I pause the timer, and abilities like this that are on Nantuko Husk, which are indicated by some kind of cost and then a colon and then what the ability does. Unless it says otherwise, you can activate abilities on your creatures at any time during your opponent's turn, right after you declared attackers, whenever you want. We don't have any instant or sorcery cards to make remarks on those. But what I'm going to do here is do a little trick that Black likes to do, which is sacrifice a creature. Well, I'm actually going to sacrifice my Shambling Goblin here. And then, of course, when Shambling Goblin dies, he's got a triggered ability, which says that an opponent's creature gets -1/-1. So I will sacrifice him, and then I'm going to target this guy right here to give him -1/-1. And when a creature's toughness, which is the second number, is reduced to 0, well, that creature dies. So there we go. So we get a bit of a 2-for-1 deal. We make this guy stronger, and we get rid of one of his creatures. So he's going to see if he wants to block, and looks like he does not, so he's going to take a pumped up Nantuko Husk to the face for 6 points, putting us back in the lead, and we still got the Vengeful Dead guy here. Oh, and by the way, also, when Vengeful Dead or another zombie, which, like our little zombie goblin here, so he counts as a zombie and a goblin. That means we also got to deal 1 damage to him, or loses 1 life. There's actually a slight distinction between taking damage and losing life, but for the most part it's generally about the same thing. So you have to deal an extra damage because of Vengeful Dead's trigger effect. So a lot of effects going on there. You can see you can get a lot of nice combos going on depending on how you build your deck. And there's another highway robber who's going to steal, once again, 2 more life from me. But we will still be in the lead, albeit barely. And you're going to play another land. I think we've drawn maybe 1 non-land card, but again, that's knowing how this deck works and knowing what kind of hands to keep. So, oh, here we go. Okay, so Cruel Revival. It's an instant card, which means you can play it anytime. And it's fairly pricey at 5 mana, but you get to destroy any non-zombie creature, which this thing's a human mercenary. This thing's a human mercenary, so we can just blow those guys up for the sake of, well, actually, it's going to actually be better to do it this turn, but I'm not going to do it right now. Let's see, actually, I think I do want to go ahead and play this Shambling Goblin, because I think I'm going to actually do the same little trick that we did last turn. So I'll just put Shambling Goblin into play, and then we'll proceed to declare attackers, and let's see who we want to actually go in with. I'm not going to attack with this guy because he's got a useful effect, and he's got a 2 power guy if he blocks his, if he blocks this 2 toughness guy with his 2 power guy. Basically what happens in combat is the creatures just kind of swing at each other at the same time, so his 2 power will kill my 2 toughness guy. I have more power than he has toughness, but that doesn't really matter because I'm going to kill him either way. So I am going to attack with Nantuko Husk, and I'm also going to attack with Shambling Ghoul because he has 3 toughness, so he would be able to survive while also taking this guy out. So I'll confirm the attack, and then we're going to go ahead and pause the timer. Once again, we'll activate Nantuko Husk's thing to sacrifice the goblin. Actually, I should have attacked with that guy after all. Oh well. We will go ahead and do -1/-1 to this guy, and then after, actually never mind, because I can't actually do that this turn. So that was my mistake. I wanted to Cruel Revival this turn, but I guess we're not, so fair enough. Which actually means I kind of set myself up for a potential bad combo block, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so Shambling Ghoul is going to get double blocked by these two guys, actually, which means that he's actually going to die because this guy's got 1 power, this guy's got 2 power. They're going to combine to deal 3 damage to him, and at the same time he's going to only deal 2 damage back. So I can actually kill this guy, which if I wanted to, I could actually, after I choose this blocking order, they get to decide who blocks what, but then you get to decide what order and damage you deal. So I'm going to go ahead and take this guy out and leave this guy hanging. And then something that I could do, if I wanted to, is use Nantuko Husk's ability again. Since this guy is going to die, I could just go ahead and sacrifice him off and then get an additional 2 points through. However, in this case, I think I'd rather use Shambling Goblin to remove a creature. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So his 2/2 dies. At the end of every turn, power and toughness, well, unless there's an actual counter put on them, the power and toughness of a creature return to their default state. Usually it's toughness that gets decreased. You can think of it kind of like as temporary as hit points, but the hit points always refill to what they're supposed to be at the end of the turn. So generally that's what's ever printed on the card. Sometimes there's counters that increase whatever their maximum is, but anyway. So you can see there's that 1/1 right now, but that's going to go back up to a 2/2 because Shambling Goblin's effect only worked for the 1 turn. And then looks like he doesn't want to attack and attempt to trade. There's another one of those imp guys. And these guys are just an imp, so they are not a zombie. That means I can target them with Cruel Revival. Alright, so we get some more land, and let's see, we can actually bring back somebody with this. So we are going to go ahead and use Cruel Revival, and what are we going to bring back? Or what are we going to kill off, first and foremost? Kill off this guy, we can kill off the flying lifelink guys, who are kind of going to be annoying because of reasons, so I think that's what I'm going to do. We're going to Cruel Revival and take out one of these guys right here, and then I'm actually going to bring back the Shambling Goblin, because I think, again, we're probably going to do the same thing. Going to go ahead and put him into play. And go on. Let's see, we will swing in, I think, with Nantuko Husk, and then I think I'm going to want to go ahead, after I confirm the attack, and once again use his ability, sacrifice off this goblin again, deal, well, not deal 1 damage, but make him go down to -1/-1, so goes down to 0 toughness, and he is knocked out, and we are a 4/4, and if he wants to block, then he'll also lose this creature, which looks like he is, so he saves himself taking damage as a result of blocking. If you have the ability Trample, then the excess damage actually goes ahead and carries over, but generally Trample is not something that black creatures have. That's usually on green. So maybe we'll see that in the future, but probably not in this campaign. So we got a pretty hefty advantage right now. He has no board. We have a Grave Digger, so when he comes in, we get to get somebody back from the graveyard. Awesome. There's no reason, I think, well, nah, there's not really. Actually, yeah, there's a reason to do that right now. We will go ahead and cast him right now. And we're actually going to go ahead and get back, once again, Shambling Goblin. Going to bring him back. And yes, we do want to use the ability. I have that as an option. You can have that to not ask you every time, but sometimes there may be some you may abilities that you don't want to activate, so that's just what that is. And we are going to now attack with Nantuko Husk. And finally, the Vengeful Dead's going to get a piece of the action, confirm the attack, and then we're going to once again sacrifice off this guy to make Nantuko Husk bigger, and also, again, because of this guy's effect, make him lose 1 life, and somebody's coming into play. Last Kiss deals 2 damage to target creature, and you gain 2 life. Okay, so he's, whoa, timer didn't stop correctly. So that was a bit annoying. What I wanted to do there was go ahead and sacrifice Gravedigger to give him 2 more life, and thereby save him. But oh well, that's not what happened because I was talking instead of stopping the timer. So looks like we should have this one in the bag though. So just would have been nicer if I could have activated the ability again. Here's this guy once again. He's got well, he's got some life, but I don't know how well he's gonna be able to hold on. So we're gonna go ahead and attack with both guys because he's only got 1 power. So that means if he wants to block, he can't kill either of my creatures, and he's gonna take at least the 2 points. And he's also gonna lose his creature 4, although he will gain back, I believe, 1 point there with the life link. Anyway, I think is that what happened? May have been clueless there, but anyway. What do we got here? Massive Ghoul is just a big fat guy. Costs 5 mana for a 5/3. So that's okay, I guess. And once again we have our Shambling Goblin, so we're gonna actually there's no need to put him into play right now. And let's see. We should be fine, I think, to so yeah, we're good to attack with both creatures. It's kind of a bad situation either way. If he blocks this guy, then he dies to the 3. If he blocks this guy, then this thing only has 3 toughness, and so it dies. So it's kind of a bad situation either way, unless this last card in his hand happens to be something that's alright. And it looks like he will trade the creature, so we will get 2 points through. And actually it's going to be enough because of reasons that I apparently can't do math on. Oh, right, because because he actually blocked and killed our there's a guy called Vengeful Dead. He actually lost 1 additional life, so it was kind of checkmate one way or the other. So there we go, picking up our first win with our wonderful black playmat. And apparently during this process of beating Josu back, the dark magic you have been exploring saves you from Josu. But your brush with death is overwhelming and you feel the world around you dissolve away. A moment ago you were standing in the ruins of Vess Manor, but now you find yourself in an unknown cemetery on an unknown plane. So one of the things in Magic that's big is a planeswalker. So, you know, for the most part everyone kind of lives in their own world, you know, their own little universe, whatnot. But there are some people who are exceptionally talented at Magic, such that they could walk between the planes, and those people are called planeswalkers. So that's kind of what these major characters in the Magic multiverse are called, and Liliana is one such planeswalker, as she is about to find out. So next time we're going to be apparently going off to the plane called Innistrad, so stay tuned for that one next time. See you guys then. Later days.